Welcome to the Michael Zehr Show, coming to you from the Rising Eagle Studios here at the Warrior Healing Center in Sierra Vista, Arizona. Today's date is January 26th, 2024. Today, my special guest to interview, veteran, is Greg Thomas from Cross Country Mortgage. Greg, I want to thank you so much for taking time out and coming down and visiting with us here at the center this morning and sharing your story with us. Thank you, sir.
No problem. Happy to do it.
Well, Josh Mayer is the one that recommended you, so I want to give him a quick shout out and say thank you, Josh, for getting us together so we could get you on the live stream. We were supposed to do it last week, and I had a little bit of a technical issue, so we rescheduled for today, and I'm just so glad you could come in today and we could get this.
Technical difficulties.
Yeah, technical difficulties. my fault. I did it. I own it. So tell us a little bit about Greg Thomas. Where's home?
Oh gosh, home. Let's pick a spot on the map.
Like born and raised home, I mean.
Born and raised home. Let's pick a spot on the map.
Okay, again.
I am a third generation Army brat.
So service runs in the family.
Service runs in the family. My grandfather did 30 years. My father did 28 years. I did 22 years. My brother did 20 years, both active and reserve. Let's see, we have a couple of other people within the Thomas DNA chain, as my father would say, that that served throughout the different services. So yeah,
very cool. So tell us. What is it that inspired you to join the military? Is it because of all of that family service to the country?
Well, part of it is that it's the family business, was and still is the family business. Okay, some people have hardware stores, and we joined the military and did our time that way, But a lot of the opportunities that were presented back in the 60s, the 70s, even back in the 50s for most of our family were because we had the opportunity to serve, and those gave us our way back into communities once we situated ourselves in a place that we wanted to stay.
And it's so unique that you have the perspective of looking at the military not only through the eyes of serving, but also as a dependent.
Yes. Born in Fort Riley, Kansas.
Mm-hmm.
Some of you might actually remember Fort Riley, Kansas, when it was a spot on the map. Now it's this huge conglomerate, okay? And shout out to Big Red One, if it's still doing its thing out there in the middle of nowhere. We in Junction City is where I was born and started this event we call life, so yeah.
And what year was it that you enlisted in the military?
Fast forward from 1956, Junction City, to 1975, suburbs of Chicago, Illinois.
My stomping grounds.
Yes, sir. And raising the right hand at the MEPS downtown Chicago.
That had to be really cool.
That was very interesting. We had the...
And what year was that?
1975.
75, okay.
75, right. We had the opportunity, it was really interesting, we had the opportunity to get the packets, as they say. Any of you guys that went through the MEPS back in the 70s, they always put somebody in charge. Well, I happened to have 2 years of high school ROTC.
Okay.
So I came in as a mosquito wing, a PV2.
Yeah.
And the sergeant there at MEPS, he took us all down to Chicago O'Hare Airfield.
Yeah.
Handed me a stack of records about yay tall, and said, "You're in charge of these guys," until we got to the airport at St. Louis, Missouri. And we were on our way to Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri for basic training.
Okay.
Now, what the fun part was It was. They also handed me a ring of keys.
Oh,
Because
do tell.
this was the last of the time where the old Jody song, Join the Army or You Go to Jail, was still an active thing. And we had at least 4 of our group that were still in the Cook County jumpsuits.
Wow.
And they handed me the ring of keys
Uh-huh.
for these guys to escort them down to
Wow.
the airport in St. Louis. So we got
That's a lot of responsibility for an E2.
for an E2 for an 18-year-old E2, and
Yeah.
we got these guys with scars and tattoos
Yeah.
and all these other guys, and it was about a group of 15 of us that we all got on Ozark Airlines, which is no longer around, and flew down to St. Louis, and that's how we started this whole thing.
So I wanted to ask, when you enlisted, were you able to pick your MOS at that time and
Yes,
your first
yeah.
duty station?
It
Was that
was-
an option at the time?
It was still it was a new option. It was
Yeah.
75 in June of 75. It had been one of these new things. Volar was still alive and well. It was just about post Vietnam era.
Right.
And we had the opportunity to go down the menu and find out what was available, and I chose Signal Corps and got a chance to choose that and go through basic and then off to Fort Gordon, Georgia for in-depth training, AIT, that kind of thing. So yeah, it was pretty interesting.
Now, as a dependent, knowing what your dad went through in the military, and as you're watching probably hearing stories from your grandpa and stuff like that, your grandfather. So what was your experience like when you went into basic training? Was it everything that you expected? Were you caught off guard a little bit?
It was interesting because the things that you see as a kid growing up in the military have absolutely nothing to do with the reality of getting off the bus at 2 o'clock in the morning. Now, I'm not sure if they time it that way. Okay, the things that you might see in the movies and on TV, the things that you hear about, those things are kind of true. They drive the bus around in the dark where you don't know where you're at until 2 o'clock in the morning, and they pull through the gate, and the yellow footprints are painted on, and that's how we start off, and everybody gets their haircut, and everybody takes their civilian clothes and sticks in a bag, and everybody gets yelled and screamed at, and you filled out a postcard and you mailed it back to mom. And yes, I arrived safely, and we'll talk to you when we can, type thing. So
maybe the better question I should have asked you was, did your dad give you any hints or kind of prepare you a little bit about what to expect for joining the military?
My father, God bless him, my father told me one thing. He said, when you get off the bus, keep your mouth closed.
Yeah.
Don't make friends. Don't try to get involved with anything.
Right.
Don't think you run anything, because you don't. Okay, just go in, do what you're told to do, and your first couple of weeks you'll get along just fine. So yeah.
And it worked, didn't it?
I'm still here.
Yeah.
I'm still here. So yeah, that was pretty good.
So how many years did you end up serving totally in the Army?
We completed 22 years.
So 22 years?
22 years. I had a break in service. I got out in 78 and went back to the Chicago area. I consider that my one faux pas in this whole life that I decided to do. I got out as an E4.
Okay.
And for those of you that can remember the Carter administration in 1978 and gas lines and all of that kind of stuff, the economy was not what it necessarily is or was. And getting out of the military as a single guy trying to get things going, it was difficult. And so we got out and we worked in retail for a little bit. Then we found a veterans program with the railroad there in the Chicago area, and we did their apprenticeship program. And what was interesting about the unions, is that even though you did a veterans program, a training program, you were at the bottom of the list.
Right.
So when you went into the union hall, when you went down to the railhead, when you went down to the station, your name was at the bottom of the list as a brand new apprentice, rookie, brakeman, or whatever your assignment was going to be. So sometimes you would go for a couple weeks without getting the opportunity to work either in the yard or on an actual train that went from point A to point B. So it was difficult. So we did that. We kicked it around for about 3 months. We decided that no, this wasn't going to be the way it was going to work for Greg. So we went back and we saw the recruiter, and it happened to be a buddy of mine from way back when.
Wow.
And, he had got reassigned and he went into recruiting. And yes, he had the gift of gab, and we worked things out. And back to Fort Gordon I went, and then I stayed until I retired in 98. So, yeah.
So when you went back in, how long was your break of service for?
It was for about 4 or 5 months.
And when you went back in, did you go back in at a lower rank, or did you have to go back through any training or anything?
I chose a different MOS.
Which was?
Back then it was 72 series, so that was telecommunications specialist.
Okay.
So I worked in comm centers. I was blessed with the opportunity of getting a security clearance that allowed me to work in the secret squirrel places. In the classified locations, and provide communications for those folks. Thank you, MI folks. Shout out. We went from there, and we started doing special stuff. We ended up for about a year at Fort Gordon. Then we got transferred and we went to Germany. And anybody that's been in Germany, late 70s, early 80s, I ended up in Stuttgart at Patch Barracks.
Had you been there as a dependent in Germany at all?
Not in Germany.
No?
As a dependent, we spent most of my time was in the United States. Most of the time was a CONUS.
All right.
So we didn't get out. The one place that as a dependent that we did get out of the United States was the Canal Zone down in Panama.
Oh,
so Balboa down there. So we got through junior high and all that down in Panama in the Canal Zone, and with monkeys in the backyard running around and picking bananas off of trees and all that other kind of stuff, which was a pretty interesting event. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't see that here.
No, not too many monkeys that you want to talk about on this live stream anyway.
We have a lot of bears, though. We have a lot of bears, and we got
bears.
Some wildcats. And
got jaguars. We got those and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah. But, we enjoyed ourselves. So we started the second round of the military by going to Stuttgart, going to Patch Barracks, working there, working with the comm center, crossed over to become a ComSec custodian for U.S. Army Europe,
Okay.
and did all of that kind of stuff, and took care of people with their special phones in their basement of their houses all over the Stuttgart area, and making sure that all the equipment was working the way it's supposed to work.
Wow.
Playing courier up and down the Autobahn, at 2 in the morning. So I don't know why it is.
I hear that's an experience, the Autobahn.
Autobahn is very cool. Autobahn back then was very cool. We used to drive as fast as those 4 wheels that said U.S. Army on the side of the truck would let us go. And yeah, it was very interesting. Germany itself was an experience that I do not regret at all.
Yeah.
At all. So yeah, we did it and had a good time.
So looking back on your career, you said 22 years, correct?
Yes.
What was your favorite duty station and why?
Oh goodness, favorite duty station hands down would have been Hawaii.
Okay, tell us about that. How come?
Hawaii back then was Hawaii as you see, Hawaii as you think about, Hawaii as you dream about. Being in Signal Corps, being in what was then called Field Station Kinea. Field Station Kinea was a 3-story building that was built during World War II. It was across the street from Wheeler Army Airfield, in the middle of the island of Oahu, next to Schofield Barracks.
Okay.
And yeah, you would work rotating shifts, and so you get off of the shift, say at 7 in the morning, and then you went to the beach.
Okay. What years were you stationed there from?
Oh goodness, let's see. Schofield was, and Kinea was early 90s, so like 92 to about 94, somewhere in there, 95.
Did you take advantage of any of the nice scuba diving stuff that they had there?
Yes,
or snorkeling?
yes. One of the biggest things that I felt as I went along my journey in the military was that I felt that I needed to give back to the communities that I was stationed in.
Okay.
So first of all of you taxpayers, thank you for the tour of the world that you gave me. I appreciate that very much. We traveled all around and got to see things that a guy out of high school from Louisville, Kentucky, or the suburbs of Chicago never would have seen if he had done it the old-fashioned way, and
right.
Worked, out of high school through whatever he had to do. So thank you for that. One of the big things that I got to do in Hawaii was to become what they call a docent. I was a tour guide for Hanauma Bay. And now Hanauma Bay is a wildlife refuge, is a marine wildlife refuge.
Okay.
It used to have it was a horseshoe, horseshoe reef. And it went from the sandy beach out to about 100 feet down.
Wow.
To the mouth of the bay. And they always were looking for people to do guided tours of the reef. Okay. So you would get a group of like 10 people, whether they were American tourists from Boise City to Japanese guys or gals from Tokyo, You would take them out and you would have a little card, and it would have all the different fish that were available in Hanauma Bay, and we put on the snorkeling stuff, and we would go out into the water and with grease pencils and this card, and I'd point at it, they would check it off, and life was good. We had a good time.
Kind of like bird watching, but for fish.
For fish, absolutely, absolutely. So yeah, we did that, and we spent about 3 years in Hawaii.
And I have to ask, Pearl Harbor. Did you visit?
Oh, I did my last re-enlistment at the Battleship Arizona Memorial.
Oh, tell us about that.
Battleship Arizona Memorial is just like it looks today. It's a white orifice or white floating dock that's over the actual ship, and you go out on. And of course, it's a re-enlistment, so everybody's in Class A's, everybody's dressed up.
Right.
It is definitely a place of respect and quiet and honor.
I was going to say, it'd have to be a very solemn experience.
Was no question about the solemnness of it, and my commander and even the battalion commander decided to show up unannounced for that re-enlistment. Wow. And we all went out and raised the right hand and held the corner of the flag and did a re-up one more time. And back then you could still see the tar balls or the oil balls still coming up from the sunken battleship that was directly underneath the white dock that's over top of the remains of the battleship there in Pearl Harbor. So yeah.
Oh, my dad chimed in here. He's watching. Hey, Pops. He said that he was there twice.
Oh,
to Pearl Harbor in Hawaii. Yeah.
Good.
So yeah, because it's been, let's see, 1942 was
41, December 41 going into December 7th.
The attack?
Yeah, the attack.
Yeah, so we're talking, what, probably
so fast forward
80 years, right?
Well, now, yeah.
Yeah, so and that oil is still...
It's still bubbling
Isn't
up.
that something?
It's still bubbling up every now and then. You'll see the balls of oil and tar coming up to the surface. So
Wow.
Yeah. But it's a very solemn place. Second best assignment, I think, was what we call a purple suit assignment. Because of my security clearance and the stuff that I did with ComSec, I got assigned to Defense Communications Agency, DAC, ended up in the Pentagon. And got to spend 4 years in the Pentagon.
Wow.
Working for the National Military Command Center, which is part of Chairman JCS.
Okay.
So I got to serve under two Chairman's Joint Chiefs of Staff, Admiral Crow, and then you guys might know this dude, General Colin Powell.
Yeah.
You might have seen him on TV or something like that. Yeah, so we got to serve for those guys as a member of one of the watch teams there in the NMCC. And I was a communications watch NCO there. And I made a huge faux pas when I was there serving in the Pentagon, serving in the NMCC. Coffee mess.
Okay.
Now this is a joint. Keep in mind this is joint assignment. So you got somebody from all the services: Air Force, Marines, even a Coast Guard representative. But the Navy was the predominant folks on my shift because there was 5 different shifts. You rotated in and out different times of the day, that kind of stuff. Being the young E6 that I was, I went to one day early to prepare coffee for the team. And I said, well, look at this mess. So being the typical Army guy, I got out the scrub brushes and I got out the paper towels and I got all that kind of stuff out. And I took the whole thing. I got the Admiral. We had Admiral in charge of our watch. I got the Admiral's cup and I got the bosun mate's cup and I got all that stuff. I took them down to the kitchen and I washed them.
And I guess that's a big no-no, huh?
if anybody here is, or anybody listening to this now or later, is from the Navy, you can chime in and you'll be able to express your displeasure when somebody reaches into your coffee cup and washes the inside of your cup and washes all of the black seasoning that you've built up over the last 3 years inside of your coffee cup out, because oh, these are dirty.
There's an art form to it.
These are dirty. Let's make these all clean and shiny, right? I don't think I've ever had my ass chewed, excuse me, the way I did when that Navy chief of the boat took me around back and reamed me a new one because I cleaned out the Admiral's coffee cup, okay? So, yes, we learned a valuable lesson that day. The same thing with the coffee pot. I cleaned everything because...
You only got a counseling statement, right? You didn't get Article 15 for
No,
that,
I didn't
right?
get Article 15. I didn't even get a counseling
I
statement.
know, I'm just kidding.
I got a little,
But
almost wall-to-wall, but, not quite. Not quite. But it was a lesson learned, let's put it that way. A lesson learned.
So share with us, if you would, what positive experience did you get from serving in the military that you took into the civilian sector? And what was your transition like into the civilian sector?
Well, positive experiences are that it's nobody else's responsibility but yourselves. Mm-hmm. Especially after you made rank and you were assigned certain duties and responsibilities. I carry that with me now, even to this day. I carry the fact that integrity and responsibility is Greg's responsibility. It's nobody else's. It's nobody else's fault. Okay, you can't say, oh my gosh, my boss didn't give me this, or I didn't get that, or sorry I'm late because there was a traffic jam or anything else like that. It was your responsibility. We talked about being here at 9 o'clock. Okay, I was here 5 minutes early because 5 minutes early is 10 minutes late. I still carry all of that kind of stuff with me, even to this day. And for better or worse, it leaves a mark on the civilian employers. It leaves a mark on your bosses. It leaves a mark on the people that you work with, because for whatever reason, and we could talk about that for another hour, for whatever reason, it is not the norm. It's not those things that are expected anymore, or even dealt with, or done. So those are the type of things, those integrity things, those owning up to a mistake, those things that you expect to do.
See, and I think in the civilian sector, no disrespect to them, but they're not taught that. So when they hire veterans, they're hiring somebody that already has a good skill set. They know that they're reliable and responsible, and that they're going to get the job done,
Well, we're fortunate here in Sierra Vista area and Cochise County at large that the military is a presence in this area, so that people that are higher fire authorities, a little pitch here, recognize that the folks that get out of the service and they settle in this community have those things going into the job, have those intangibles that you can't teach somebody, that they have to learn through experience. They have to learn through their own trials and tribulations, if you want to call it that. Now, full disclosure, I worked in the environment, two major environments after I got out. First environment, I once again thank you to Mr. and Mrs. Taxpayer. I was blessed by going through a program the VA sponsored back in the middle 90s, late 90s, vocational rehabilitation as they called it. and they sent me to school, and they said, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" And teacher fell out of my mouth.
Okay.
So they sent me to school. I got my bachelor's degree in education, and I was a high school teacher for about 3 years after I got out.
Okay.
Couple that with the opportunities I had to be an instructor while I was in the Army. Once again, back at Fort Gordon at the Signal School in Fort Gordon, Georgia. And I served as a teacher in the suburbs of Seattle.
Okay.
Federal Way, Washington, Federal Way School District in the Seattle area. I was a high school teacher for about 3 years.
Wow.
Then 9/11 happened. And anybody watching this, anybody in this building that shares that moment, there's not a person that we know that can't tell you where you were when that first airplane hit the World Trade Center.
Right.
Long story short, fast forward. So 9/11 happened. I had been removed from the service about 5 years, and I went back to Fort Lewis because that was where I had retired from. I happened to have that old brown, remember that old brown briefcase that every NCO and officer was issued? Okay, the old paper brown briefcase we all ended up acquiring. Okay. So in that brown briefcase in the trunk of my car was my semi-updated resume. They had a job fair going on base there at the NCO club. Yes, there were still NCO clubs back then on Fort Lewis. So stopping by, I dropped off my resume to the Raytheon rep, and within 7 days, they offered me a position.
Wow.
I finished my requirements as a teacher, shook hands all around, and I joined Raytheon, which basically meant that as a defense contractor, I now was back in service.
Right. Was this in Tucson?
No, this was up still in the Seattle area. This was at Fort Lewis. So
I thought maybe Raytheon, when they were recruiting or something, maybe they...
Well, Raytheon is very interesting. I make a joke about Raytheon being a mom and pop shop, okay, small thing. Raytheon at the time I joined it had 90,000 employees in approximately 30 locations, 30 major locations worldwide. The Raytheon that all of us know here in this immediate Arizona area up in Tucson is just a small part of Raytheon. And Raytheon's evolved since I worked there and serviced there. Raytheon's the reason why I am in Sierra Vista now, because Raytheon had opportunities on Fort Huachuca. They won the contract, and they needed more instructors for the UAV programs on Fort Huachuca. You probably have heard them or seen them flying overhead. And once again, 2:00 in the morning. There's a theme there. I don't
Going
know
to
what
Mexico and retrieving them every now and then.
Yeah. Well, that happened. It wasn't mine. Okay.
Oh, wasn't mine.
To make sure we understand that I had nothing to do with that. So I joined Raytheon. I got sent to McAllen, Texas. I learned some stuff about infrared equipment, and then I got sent to Alaska from Texas.
Wow.
And there's this 6-wheel machine called the Striker. Some of you guys and gals may be familiar with that. So they sent me up to Fort Wainwright, Alaska. And I worked on equipment that is connected with that. And I was, I call it the Maytag repairman for the equipment for the infantry folks on the Strikers back and forth long the short, I ended up doing my tour duty in Iraq as a defense contractor for Raytheon.
Wow, okay.
So, yes, I got to see camo spiders chase me back and forth to the latrines and all the rest of the things that went on in that hot sandbox for about 13 months. And then came back and then got assigned here. I spent a little time at Fort Campbell, Kentucky, doing stuff with the Night Stalkers of the 160th. And started transitioning over to aviation, Raytheon aviation equipment. Ended up getting offered the position here as an instructor. Came here, learned how to fly UAVs without sending them to Mexico.
Right. Are they still flying them today up there,
Yes.
or didn't they move? I thought they were talking about moving the.
They were talking about moving them. They were
Okay.
talking about relocating the mission from here, but basically airspace and
Yeah, it's a
all
good
of
area
the
down
other
here.
stuff
Yeah.
is that's available here versus other places where you have to compete with the FAA and other things in the sky, and they're still here today.
I love watching like the C-130s will be flying over down,
Right.
you know, and then you get jets that come down from Davis Mountain every
Oh,
now and
yeah.
then doing touch and goes and stuff, and it's fascinating to watch all that.
Oh yeah, and we would line up in between all of that stuff and fly around and do what we do and train the boys and girls and then send them off to go do their magical stuff back in the sandbox or in other places on the planet. So yes. So now fast forward from that, because with anybody that knows anything about defense contracting, the key word there is contract. And when Raytheon lost the contract, for better or worse, when Raytheon lost the contract as instructors here for UAVs, of course, then we were rifted. We were let go. And then my wife, who been in real estate and mortgages for years, said, well, you can do this. And I said, sure, I can do this. So we ended up working together now in two different companies in the mortgage industry, and here we are. So
How did you end up getting hooked up with Cross Country Mortgage?
Cross Country Mortgage made an offer to Leslie and to our office here. We were with a previous company here in Sierra Vista, and they made an offer.
An offer you couldn't refuse.
An offer we couldn't refuse. Okay, we didn't want a horse head in our bed, so. So yes, we shifted from one company to Cross Country, and we've been with Cross Country right about a year now.
Okay.
And we just relocated to our permanent offices.
And where's that at now?
Our permanent offices now, for those of you that know the area, off of Highway 92, where the McDonald's is, going south on Highway 92, heading toward Hereford. You'll see what used to be Brace Family Dentistry in that office space behind the McDonald's. You'll see the sign going up next week that says Cross Country Mortgage.
Okay.
So stick your head in there. We'll pour you a cup of coffee. We'll talk, especially for this audience, we'll talk VA mortgages and how you can do that, how you can get that last final home for yourself if you're going to retire in this community. If you're PCSing, if you know somebody that's coming into this area and they decide that living off post as opposed to on post is the way they want to go, then come on in and we'll chit chat with you and give you what your options are. I mean, the idea that us as a mortgage company, especially with veterans, we are not a used car salesman. We don't. My co-workers and friends that are With cross country, we don't look at you and say, what does it take to get you in a mortgage today? Okay, we don't
Right.
do that kind of stuff. A lot of people don't realize what their benefits are being veterans. Okay, a lot of people don't realize that if you get $2 worth, $1.50 worth of disability, then there's fees that are normally applied to a VA mortgage that you no longer have to pay. Okay.
And you have VA home loan eligibility.
And we got VA home loan eligibility. There's a lot of people. Unfortunately, I found a lot of people in our community here that is full of veterans that don't necessarily want to sell to veterans because they think VA loans are a pain in the butt. And so we then have to offer that piece of education to the sellers of homes,
right,
to tell them that it's no more difficult or no less difficult to do a VA mortgage than it is any other type of mortgage. All you got to
right,
do is work with the person that's there to help you as a seller and the person who's going to be your client as the buyer, and we make it as smooth as possible. So yeah.
Well, you know, we do have the live stream studio here available. So if you ever get with a realtor like Josh, you know, Mayer or somebody, and you guys could come in and give a class to our veterans through the live stream and give them a little bit of an idea what to expect, I think that would be a huge help.
We would be welcoming that opportunity. We have several folks that have gone off, myself included, that have gone off and got, because, you know, we never quit getting trained. So
right,
there's training that's involved with becoming a VA mortgage specialist. I'm a VA mortgage specialist. So you go out and you get trained and you learn all the new pros and cons of doing this, how to do it, how to help that person who's buying a home for the first time versus the person that's
can be scary too,
who's ready to retire and buy that last forever home, you know. And we're here for you. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Okay, we can reach out. You can reach out to me. You can reach out to anybody in our office, and we'll be glad to do that. And working with Josh, who was one of my Army bros going through this, one of my Army co-workers flying UAVs in this area, will be happy to sit down and, you know, do the pros and cons, okay, from both the real estate agent's perspective as well as the mortgage loan officer's perspective.
I, for one, would watch that. I think that would be very educational.
It would be a good opportunity to do that, you know. And then who knows, we might be able to take this on the road and help out other folks, you know, in your own personal, you know, community, your own personal organizations besides just being on the live stream here. So yeah.
Well, Greg, I really appreciate you taking time out, coming in and sitting down with us today and sharing your story with you. And I'd love to have you back in the future to do any kind of updates or anything that you guys want to put out, any information on doing a live stream for that or anything like that. I'll be more than happy to help you guys. Anything to help, just let me know.
Absolutely.
Right.
And thank you all out there that's listening. Thank you that are going to be taking a look at this later on. We thank you for your service. We thank you for your opportunities out there, and don't hesitate. The veteran community in Sierra Vista and Cochise County is stronger than most people realize, and we're here to support each other, and all it takes is a phone call or a text, and we'll be right here for you.
I appreciate that. Thank you, sir.
All right.
So hang around for about a minute or two here. I got a couple quick announcements to share with everybody. So starting on Monday, the 29th of January, starting at 17:30 hours and going to 18:30 hours, is the Tai Chi and Qigong that will be taking place here at the Warrior Healing Center. Then on Tuesday, January 30th, starting at 1300 hours, going to 1400 hours, is the Women's Domestic Violence Support Group, which takes place here at the Warrior Healing Centers Military Library. On Wednesday, January 31st, we, starting at 10 o'clock, going through 1600 hours, is the Benefits Open House Seminar. That's with VetLinks will be down here in the area, and that's going to be taking place in the Warrior Healing Center's main conference room. Also on Wednesday, January 31st, starting at 1800 hours, going to 1930 hours, is the Heart to Heart Ladies Support Group, which takes place in the Warrior Healing Center's main conference room. And then on Wednesday, January 31st, starting at 1900 hours and going until determined, they're doing something new at the Doc's Watering Hole. It's the speed dating. It's an event by veteran Justin McShane. So make sure to come on down and check it out at Doc's Watering Hole on January 31st, again, starting at 1900 hours. And on Thursday, February 1st, starting at 0800 hours and going through 1600 hours, we have the AARP and VITA tax preparation appointments that will be taking place here at the Warrior Healing Center's front conference room. So yeah, it is tax time. So we're going to have lots of people coming in to get their taxes done here at the Warrior Healing Center. It's a great program that they offer, and there's no charge, and you don't have to be a veteran in order to participate and take advantage of the AARP tax prep. On Thursday, 1st of February, starting at 1700, going to 1900 hours, is Taji 100. It's the monthly mission kickoff. Team RWB, that'll be meeting at Home Depot here in Sierra Vista. We also have the Team RWB Thursday night bicycle ride taking place at that same time, as well as the Run Walk Ruck, all taking place with Team RWB at Home Depot in Sierra Vista on Thursday, February 1st, again starting at 1700 hours. So thank you everybody for joining us today. I will be back with another veteran guest next Friday. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you then. Take care, everybody. Bye.